What's up, guys? Today we're going to look at another poem. This one's called Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden from 1938. And Auden was British, but he lived in the U.S., in New York, for much of his career. And I believe that started right after this. I think he moved there in 39, 40, around when the war was firing up. This poem is pretty straightforward. The title tells us what's going on, funeral. Someone has died, and blues. Someone is sad. This is something I mention a lot, which is that when you're writing a poem, you can often be a little mysterious, especially at the beginning, and that's okay, but the title can do such a good job of just telling you what it is, and then your reader will have the facts without needing exposition at the beginning. You don't need to set the scene the way you might in a story. So that's not the way you have to go, but something to keep in mind. Anyway, let's read this, and then I have a couple things I want to point out. And one thing I want you to focus on for today's assignment. Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves. Let traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. Thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. Stars are not wanted now. Put out everyone. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good. We've got 16 lines. Very straightforward structure. You've got quatrains of 4 lines, pretty strict on the syllables per line, not exactly the same, but pretty similar, and an AABB rhyme scheme where it's just got one line and then rhymes with the very next, and then it's done. One line, the very next, and then it's done. And Auden did this a lot. He would write about serious topics of politics and love and all kinds of tragedy, but he would do it with forms that would be very classic, and you might assume stuff like that would require some free verse associative stuff, but it often works if you kind of have that contrast between a pretty steady structure and then you can go off into all kinds of non-traditional conclusions. You don't have to have a happy ending, But anyway, we do have the rhyme, we do have the structure, we do have quite a bit of alliteration and hints of other things along the way. But today I wanted to focus on one thing, which is that in a poem, you often have a big thing you want to say. You want to get to some statement about time and death and the universe and love. And you have to get there. You have to give us a title and give us the first couple of lines and let us acclimate to this space. Where are we? What are we looking at? What are we talking about? And then you can sort of zoom out and end with something big. I really like the idea of showing us a painting at first, Here's a flower, here's a tree, here's a person, here's a scene. And then we can say, what does it tell us? What does it mean? Where's it going next? What do we think about it? But if you try to start with that stuff, it gets a little weird. And I know there are exceptions. Okay, Auden himself has a poem that starts by saying, looking up at the stars. It's a poem called The More Loving One. So I understand there are exceptions, but we have a very nice pattern to follow in this poem and many others we've seen, where we start off with an image, and I don't mean like a computer image file where you're posting something on the screen. I mean the idea of a descriptive poetic image. You're telling us about what's here, what do we imagine. If we're setting the scene in our minds, we're sort of populating it with stuff. If I'm reading a book, I need the setting at first, you know. And if you tell us in a poem that we're talking about something visual, something we can imagine, then we can add on meaning to it later. We can add on like, oh, what's the mood? Is it good or bad? Are people coming or going? Is it like descending from a better past, going downhill, or is it, springtime blooming into something great? We can get that as we go, but we got to start with something first. So today, here's the deal. We've had a couple assignments where I would give you a poem and say, hey, let's try the rhyme, try the comparisons, try like one little aspect. And I've stressed, I've said a million times that, hey, these aren't poems yet. You don't have to worry, is it good or bad? Is it right or wrong? Just get some ideas down. But now I do want to say, like, hey, let's package it together and say we've got a poem, a first draft. So I'm going to say, take what you've got, and then we're going to add a couple things to make it official. And one of those things is a title. So like I said, and like I've said a few times, often you just want the title to just be like the name of the person, the name of the thing. What are we talking about? And this is similar to the title of a painting. If you're looking at a painting and it doesn't quite tell you everything you need to know, and then the title is just like, here's the city, and we're like, oh, this is a painting of that city. And it doesn't mean we're done. We can still have a million layers of thought after that of what does it mean and why do we call it that, and blah, blah, blah. But at least it gives us something to start with, like, oh, that's what it's about. And so if you don't have a title yet, I would recommend you just say what the thing is, okay? One poem we're going to read soon in a couple days is called Rattlesnake. If you read it without that, you're like, what's he talking about? What's going on? But then when you see rattlesnake, it's like, oh, this is about a rattlesnake. And that helps a lot. It also means, like I said, you don't have to spend time on exposition at the beginning. You can spend time doing the cool stuff of saying what it looks like, what it sounds like, where are we, and what's going on. Now, the other thing I want to add is an ending. Now, you might have some lines and you might be thinking, how do I arrange them? I came up with some brainstorming stuff last Monday, and then I added a few things last Wednesday, and I really could shuffle it in any order. And for that, I have one straightforward tip, which is start with the small stuff. Start with like describing an image. Give us something to hold on to. Give us something to picture. And then end with the big stuff. Zoom out, like at the end of Men in Black 1, when it shows the Earth and then the galaxy, and then the galaxy is just a little marble in a game of cosmic aliens playing marbles with many galaxies. And that is sort of the direction you can move. If you've already got some other direction, like you're telling a story or like sort of building up to a punchline, then that's okay. But if you need a trick to get it going, then this is the right one. You want to start with something small, start with here, and then end with world, universe, time, death, and so on. If you imagine a movie, it often like does zoom out, or the camera does turn away at the end and shows the sky to sort of symbolize the, ripple of whatever has happened is now like settling into the universe. So that's going to be our assignment. Actually, not an assignment, an assessment. It's going to count as a bit more than what we've done, because now we're calling it a real poem and putting it all together. It doesn't mean it's your final draft and you have to read it in front of the class or anything, but we're moving in that direction. Thanks.